We are back with another She Can interview, a women's story. We're interviewing women from all walks of life on how they got to where they are today. And I'm talking to Kelly Cervantes today. Kelly, I'm so excited. Welcome to She Can. We are going to listen to your story today, which is a beautiful story, a heartbreaking story. And you've written a beautiful book about your life called Normal Broken, which we can see in the background. You're also writing a blog called Inchstones, and you're hosting Seizing Life, and you're in the CURE Epilepsy board. So tell us a bit more about yourself and how you got to where you are today publishing your book.
Well, I think that if you had told me 10 years ago what the next 10 years of my life would look like, I probably would have gone and hid in a closet and never come out. I was coordinating and selling events for a Tom Colicchio restaurant in New York City and loved it. I was our family's primary breadwinner. I bought us a house, and my husband is an actor, and he was sort of in and out of shows on Broadway. And it is they are sexy jobs, but it does not lead for a sexy life in terms of financial stability. And we had our son Jackson, and then 3 years later, we had our daughter Adelaide, and we knew fairly early on that something wasn't quite right, but no clue as to the severity of what we would be facing. By May of 2016, in the same week that she had her first seizure and was diagnosed with epilepsy, my husband was cast as Hamilton in the Broadway and then the Chicago production of the blockbuster musical. And our family moved to Chicago. I was supposed to take over as director of sales for another restaurant group. I had to turn that down. And quite literally overnight, I went from being the boss to being my family's, my specifically for my daughter, her caregiver, her pharmacist, her nurse, her all of these things for the care that she was going to need. And we get to Chicago, and our daughter's condition just sort of kept getting worse and worse. She was diagnosed with a condition called infantile spasms, which is a pretty devastating form of pediatric epilepsy. And the diagnoses just sort of kept piling up and piling up. By spring of 2019, doctors determined that whatever was causing her abundance of symptoms was neurodegenerative. On October 12th, 2019, she passed away just 5 days before her 4th birthday. I was understandably devastated. She had become my whole life, my purpose. Everything that I did was for her and my son and my husband, but it felt like I had been forced into retirement from this job that I had resented initially, but had grown to love. It was a very difficult transition going from being a person in the business world to being home. But I did grow to love it, and the knowledge and the advocacy and the caring for my daughter. And then she was gone, and I couldn't do that anymore. Earlier, before she passed away, I had started writing a blog called Inchstones about our medically complex parenting journey with Hamilton thrown into the mix. And after she passed away, I kept that going, but started writing about my grief. And in doing so, I reached all of these new audiences. And because I didn't know what to do, but writing came very naturally, I found that I was connecting with people. So I decided to write a book, and that could be my next path forward. And Normal Broken was born from there.
Kelly, thank you so much for telling us your story so beautifully. And so tell us a bit more about the journey of writing the book. You had to deal with this absolutely horrific grief, which is what happens when a mother loses a child. And you wrote about it, and you wrote about it in such an incredible way, because you weren't sugarcoating it. You weren't sort of, throwing people phrases of how to change things in one's life. You were really authentic, and you were really sitting with it, which I think is so powerful. So tell us a little bit about that cathartic rhythm of putting it on paper.
I mean, I am a huge proponent of talk therapy. I couldn't be talking to you today without my psych meds, but there's truly nothing that helped me process my grief more than writing. And there's all sorts of scientific studies that talk about how when you write your thoughts and your feelings, you move it into another part of your brain where you can process it more. But for the sake of this conversation, it was just writing helped me process. It helped me decide to want to heal. And my mother is a therapist. She sent me all of these books on grief and healing, and I couldn't make it through much more than the first chapter of most of these books because I found that they all assumed that I wanted to heal, and I was not in a place where I wanted to yet. And so for Normal Broken, it was very important to me to come to the table from a place of not wanting to heal or not understanding what healing means. And the other piece that I found that I wanted more than anything was just someone to sit in the dark with me, to sit in the ugly grief with me and hold my hand, to be present, to witness it. And so that was another goal of this book, is to write it in a way that it feels like we are friends and I am relating to you and telling you my experiences, telling you what worked for me, some of the mistakes that I made that ultimately helped me along the way. But just, I'm not a therapist. I have this lived experience. And I think by sharing our stories, I'm going to rephrase that. I know by sharing our stories and our experiences with others that we can find some normalcy in our brokenness.
Yeah, yeah, you said that so beautifully, Kelly. Thank you. And the personal becomes very quickly very universal. So by you telling your story in this way of being able to sit with that and showing other people that you can do that, that's really very inspiring and of such high service. Kelly, so what would your main motivator be going forwards? How do you see yourself going forwards with this incredible book that you've just put out into the world, with this story that's that's a heartbreaking story that will be with you, and how will your journey with that be going forwards?
I talk in the book about how we are surviving, we are not survivors, how we are healing, never healed. And I hope to carry that message forward. I have had the opportunity to get to travel a bit with this book and to meet other people who are grieving all sorts of things, not just child loss, but parent loss or siblings, friends, divorce, all sorts of loss that we experience in our lives. And it has been incredible to sit across from people and to witness their grief, to do in person what I hope this book does from afar. And I've enjoyed speaking to other people, and I hope to keep writing. But the writing and the speaking and the connecting, it feeds me in ways I never thought possible. Certainly not 10 years ago when I was coordinating and selling business meetings and bat mitzvahs.
Definitely. Kelly, so having done all of this, what top tips would you give to a grieving mom or a grieving sister somewhere out in the world?
Absolutely. It really freaking sucks. Grief suck and it's weird, but nothing that we experience in grief is unique to us. We are all special in the way that that Dr. Seuss and Mr. Rogers taught us all those years ago. However, what we are experiencing is not special or unique to us. And so find those people who are comfortable sitting with you in your grief. Find those people who can relate. And that is where you are going to learn to accept the grief in your life. That is how you're going to learn how to move forward with your grief, because it's never going to be gone from your life. And I hope that you get to a place where you don't want it to be, because you realize that grief and love are two sides of the same coin. So it is about moving forward with our grief and surrounding us with people who understand and see us.
Kelly, and how do you think did you get to this place where you are so courageously able to write down your story and talk about your story? Where do you think that comes from, that incredible resilience and strength?
Oh, it comes from the people around me. It comes from my mother, who taught me very early on that emotions and mental health were something to be as concerned and cared for as our physical health. It comes from the relationship with my husband. We grieved drastically differently, and it was very isolating early on, but he has always been supportive of the way that I grieve. And once I understood how he was grieving, I was able to support him in that also. It comes from wanting to wake up in the morning and be there for my children who are still physically with me. And it comes from that knowledge of knowing that I'm not alone, that everything that I write is relatable to someone, maybe not relatable to everyone, because again, we do all grieve differently, but it is relatable, and I can help someone else. And this horrible thing happened, and I wish that my daughter was still here more than anything in the world. I don't think that things happen for a reason, but I do believe that we can make reason out of the things that happened. And so this is my reason. This is my how I can make sense of this and make it matter, make my daughter's life matter.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for talking so beautifully about your journey and helping other people through that. And so I would love to encourage everyone who is sitting with grief right now to buy your book, Normal Broken. What a beautiful piece of hard work to be able to put that out into the world, Kelly. And all the very best to you.
Thank you so very much for having me. This was a pleasure.